This is a story my grandmother told us that took place when I was 7 years old. To give you all a brief background, my grandma, during the late years of her career, worked for a prestigious family. She was in charge of the checks that every heir of that family must receive in a specific time frame, and everything that has to do with these wealthy heirs. So my granny was well acquainted with everyone there. She worked in one of the many abodes of that family. We're talking about old money suites with all the old-fashioned furnace and expensive porcelain porches with a circular entrance around an old fountain, Corinthian walls and gargoyles. It's what we call, today, a Gothic mansion, a typical haunted house. The interior is dusty, since the family doesn't really visit there anymore. It's only being kept clean by the maids and the house caretaker. My grandmother's office is located right at the entrance. Large wall windows from ceiling to floor covered by thick velvet curtains. The view from the windows expands the whole gate entrance in the fountain, as well as the second entrance through the garden. Granny really has a 90-degree view of the whole place. Keep in mind that both of the only entrances to the mansion are guarded by security, and my granny can see the people that are entering even before they knock on the door, since she keeps the curtains open always. After school, me and my cousin, 5 at the time, come to this place instead of going straight home, since the caretaker of the mansion was kind and let us play by the garden and the driveway. But this particular day, we stayed inside the mansion and were just playing by the fireplace, just across from my grandma's desk. I remember I saw my grandma look through the windows and stand abruptly, telling us that someone's coming and we must behave. She exited the large doors and proceeded to greet the 2 women that had already passed the gate, which is weird because the guards should have alerted her about them already, and she would have heard the old squeaky gates being opened to let them into the premise. But she brushed it off, offered a smile to these 2 people, thinking they must be the new heirs that her boss told her to expect that week. But as they were gradually approaching, my grandmother noticed that one of the women was glaring at her with a scowl that sent shivers through her spine, while the other was smiling so sweetly at her. Nonetheless, she greets them. Hello, but they didn't return the greeting, just stood there, halfway through the steps. It was only then that she saw what they were wearing. Now, this story took place on the years 2008, 2010-ish, but the women were wearing long, black dresses with laces and high necks. My grandmother thought it was weird, but just told them to come inside so they can process the insurance of the checks in her office. She turned her back on them, pushed the heavy door inside again, leaving it open to let them through, and just briskly walked to her desk, past me and my cousin. She was expecting them to follow her in, but several minutes passed, and not one shadow of the guests entered the mansion. Grandma sighs, glanced out the windows, expecting to see the guests still standing outside, but to her shock, she saw no one there. I don't remember much from back then, but my grandma said that me and my cousin were staring through the open doors as if we were seeing somebody, and I pointed toward the door, saying, "Aren't you going to come inside?" My grandmother whipped her head to the window again, praying that maybe she just missed it the first time. But still, there were no women dressed in these weird clothes outside. She could see the gates from where she was standing, and to her horror, they were locked in deadbolt. These locks can only be opened with keys that the guards, the caretakers, and my grandmother had. My grandmother shakily walked toward the front door, where me and my cousin kept staring, still. But when she turns around, there was no one there as well. She looked at us confusedly, but me and my cousin are both in our own worlds again. My grandma frantically ran outside to check that she wasn't going crazy, that what she saw couldn't be what she thought it was. When she reached the front gates, the guard stationed there asked her what was wrong. She immediately accused him. Why didn't he notify her when 2 guests arrived? The guard looked at her in confusion and told her no one had come the whole afternoon. The gate had been locked since the morning when she arrived. She paled, told him about the encounter, reasoning that maybe they entered through the second entrance around the garden. But the guard insisted that that's impossible since the gate hasn't been used forever. It's been sealed shut. My grandmother, now lightheaded, called her other office mate to come to the office immediately because she felt sick to her stomach. She doesn't want to admit it yet. And when her office mate comes unbothered, carrying 2 large boxes and sees how pale my grandmother was, She asks worriedly if she needs someone to drop us off at home because my grandma did not look good. But my grandma told me she's fine, asked what was in the boxes. The office mate told her that it was some old albums that their boss gave them to dispose of in the old mansion, and some trinkets that are deemed useless to this wealthy family. They browsed the old albums together, me and my cousin included. It was full of these black and white pictures dated early 1900s. But when we opened one of the albums, my grandmother shook violently, started muttering curses and prayers. When her coworker asked her, "What is wrong?" she told her the incident a while ago and said, "That's them." In one of the old pictures dated 1912, two women arm in arm, one smiling, one frowning, dressed in exactly those long black dresses. But what made my grandma absolutely lose it was when my cousin giggled beside me and pointed to the girls, saying, "They have feet here! They were missing them a while ago."